Ayubowan. Good evening, good morning, and good day to all of you who join us from anywhere in the world. Today by the 43 Brigade Engineers Forum. I am Surat Senaviratna, convener of the 43 Brigade Engineers Forum. We would like to inform you that this webinar is recording, and we would like to suggest you to turn off the microphone to have a good session. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the program, where you can use the raise hand option to ask your question from the resource persons. However, the number of questions will depend on the time. Today, our topic is leveraging blockchain technology to shape the future of Sri Lanka. We, the Engineers Forum, have teamed up with the Economic Forum of 43 Brigade to present this event to you with great success. Our guest speakers are Dr. Malka Halgamuge of the University of Melbourne and Dr. Sandu Abeywickrama, CTO of Atisfy, Australia. On behalf of 43 Brigade Engineers and Economic Forums, I respectfully welcome to this webinar Dr. Malka and Dr. Sandu, two proud products of Sri Lankan free education. We also warmly welcome Honorable Patali Champika Ranawaka and all the other guests attending this event. Today's moderator of the webinar is Mr. Parakrama Girihagama. I cordially invite you, Parakrama, to continue the session from here. Over to you, Parakrama.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Honorable Patali Champika Ranawaka, founder and the chief advisor and visionary leader of 43 Brigade of the particularly related to the engineering forum as well as economic forum in this webinar. Welcome you, sir, to this event. We have two speakers here. One, Dr. Malka Halgamuge, she's from Australia, and Dr. Sandu Abeywickrama, he also from Australia. I think we have participants from Sri Lanka as well as some overseas countries. Let me first start this session. We will go this session in English medium presentation. If someone have a question or some clarification, of course, Sinhala language also we can use it as interchangeably. To start this session, may I warmly invite Honorable Patali Champika Ranawaka, our founder, to address the participant. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Parakrama. Good evening to everybody. First of all, I am thankful to the organizers, Surat Senaviratna, Chamat Silva, and Parakrama, who have this August gathering here. And we are now going to discuss about the blockchain technology, which is not very much familiar with the Sri Lankan audience or the Sri Lankans in general. Here we are actually addressing the engineering forum with collaboration with the economic forum. So most of the bankers and others are, I think, listening to these very valuable presentations made by the two professionals here. Actually, now we are living in a new age, called it smart age, and disruptive technologies are now changing, also moving and shaping this new world, nanotech, then gene tech, and Robotech, IT, and also the Internet of Things and FinTech that are very important for us because day-to-day life as well as the economic plus social arenas of this new world is being rapidly changing because of these disruptive technologies. I think very recently, when we are facing this pandemic, the COVID-19, the gene mapping and gene-based vaccines are now used to fight against the COVID vaccine. Very successful story about this gene technology. And as far as the transportation is concerned, we know that now we are experiencing very serious consequences of the global warming. Emission-free vehicles, driverless vehicles are now invading the transportation sector as well because of this new technology. And also during this pandemic time, the SaaS or the software as a service is now developing very rapidly in this region, especially from India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the South Asian countries, to create wealth. And we know that this new technology called FinTech is now advancing technology that is used by the banking sector and financial institutions as well. So I think I saw an article, I read it, which appeared there in the Economist magazine last May, which actually addressed the issue, the future of the banking. And it says over 50% of the financial assets now are held by the non-banking sector, thanks to the new technologies that we are now using. And the blockchain, it means the distributed ledger technology is now currently used by the various banking sector people and also the financial institutions as well. So we are here to listen to the two professionals who are excelled about these new technologies, and our aim is to learn it, and the most important thing, how to apply these new digital technologies to our current context, the Sri Lankan context. Thank you very much for attending this important event. Over to you, Parakrama.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Minister. So today agenda, we will have two panelists. One start with Dr. Malka. After that, with Dr. Sandu, then the Q&A session. Let me introduce Dr. Malka Halgamuge. Dr. Malka Halgamuge is a researcher in the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at the University of Melbourne. She obtained her PhD from the same department in 2007. She was awarded the Chinese Academy of Sciences President's International Fellowship in 2017, Incoming Leaders Fellowship from Australia-India Institute at New Delhi in 2016, Next Step Initiative Fellowship in 2015, Australia-China Young Scientist Fellowship in 2014, Dyson Fellowship at the University of California, Los Angeles, USA 2013, Early Career Researcher Award from Alexandria on Humboldt Foundation in 2013, and Solander Fellowship in Lund University in 2007 and 2008. She is the recipient of the Vice Chancellor's Engagement Award in 2010 and Vice Chancellor's Knowledge Transfer Award in 2008 for her research at the University of Melbourne. She has published more than 120 peer-reviewed technical articles. She was the keynote speaker in many forums, particularly Ecosoil 19, Seoul, South Korea, EPRF 18, Kerala, India, and plenary speaker ICBT 18, Bali, Indonesia. In addition to her publication, her research has acquired significant attention, resulting in an invitation to present 50 invited guest lectures at universities and industry, including Oxford University, IBM Research, and the delivery of 9 IEEE talks. She has also conducted 17 journals, media interviews, and articles. Science Alert, Melbourne Voice, Maryland Leader, and Grad News, etc. As well as 2 video interviews, including one to ABC News Australia. She is passionate about research and teaching university students. Emerging technologies, blockchain, and smart contracts for security, trust, transparency, and traceability of data, Internet of Things, business intelligence in big data, machine learning solution, and bioelectromagnetics. Dr. Malka, without further delay, over to you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. Could you see my screen?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Parakrama, for the introduction, although it's always a bit embarrassing for me to hear about myself from someone. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm honored to be invited to give a speech in blockchain technology to engineers, other professionals, and all other guests, including Honorable Former Minister, Mr. Patali Champika Ranawaka, in this evening. The title of the talk is Leveraging Blockchain Technology to Shape the Future of Sri Lanka. Blockchain technology, or a distributed decentralized database, is a scientific breakthrough that obtained unique consideration from academia, industry, government throughout the world. It has the true potential to be adopted in current business models. This is the outline of the talk. I will explain you this using 3 questions: why, what, and how. Why do we need to adopt blockchain technology? What are the current challenges we are facing? And then I will explain what is the blockchain that could provide solution to current problems. And essentially, how we can use the blockchain technology or distributed technology for security, trust, transparency, and traceability. First, I will explain you about first challenge is the Internet of Things, or IoT. The concept of every device is connected to each other and connected to the internet using IP address. For example, smart homes, smart cities, smart farming, auto-driving cars. According to the recent statistics, world IoT market was $248 billion in 2020 and is projected to rise to $1,567 billion by 2025. IoT systems are vulnerable for DDoS attack or distributed denial of service attack. Essentially, IoT devices do not have high computational power and memory capacity to run required security functions. IoT environment is vulnerable, so it is essential to adopt a technology to safeguard IoT communication. Next challenge, critical infrastructure protection. Everything is connected to internet, are connected to the world, and are directly connected to cyber criminals. Adversaries or cyber criminals who are smarter than defenders or cybersecurity professionals can ruin the entire country, especially if they gain access to critical infrastructure such as power grid, satellite system, data, water, etc. So obviously, we need a solution to secure this, as we are not safe. Next challenge, heavy internet usage and big data. Data is producing exponentially. For example, per minute, 69 million messages sent and 1.4 million Facebook scrolls. According to the statistics, in 2020, every person generated 1.7 megabytes of data per second. So big data. However, processing and securing a massive amount of data limits the enormous potential and practical application of data science, as essentially this data saved in a centralized databases. Then malicious users have access to ruin the system, so we need a technology to secure this. Other challenge, cybersecurity, internet infrastructure security, ransomware attack. It is estimated by 2025, cybercrime will cost approximately $10.5 trillion. Cybercrime-related damages were estimated to reach $6 trillion in 2021. Adversaries or cyber criminals try to psychologically manipulate us by tricking us to install malware or malicious software to our own devices. We call this as social engineering. Based on 2021 statistics, 98% of attacks rely on some sort of social engineering. Ransomware attack will start encrypting all data in your device or your organization, computer network, and only way you to access to your own data is to pay the ransom and get the private key to decrypt the data. In 2020, 51% of surveyed businesses were hit by ransomware attack. So protection against ransomware is very important. So we need to find a way to secure internet infrastructure and secure the cyber. Next challenge, dark web and top. The World Wide Web, or simply we call web, is a way of searching information using internet. Surface web, so let's say 4% of the web, we have all access to this using Google, Yahoo, that sort of search engines. But 90% of the web is the deep web. It contains all our medical record, financial records, social media files, and plenty of other important information that we want to keep secure. Bottom 6% is the dark web. It is not accessible through standard browsers, and it is not indexed by search engines, which makes it anonymous. Dark web is the place cyber criminals do their illegal activities anonymously. A special browser is needed, such as Tor browser, similar browser technology to access this portion. So all the data packets passed through this network are encrypted from sender to exit node in the Tor network. So it provides the anonymity. Criminals do not want to risk their details using credit card or PayPal for transaction to buy illegal drugs, weapons, child pornography, as they leave paper trails. So literally, dark web gained more advantage with invention of the cryptocurrency, as criminals can do their business anonymously. Final challenge is the supply chain industry. A supply chain, in simple term, is a network between a company, its suppliers, or to produce and distribute a product to the end user. Lack of transparency, product traceability, consistency, trust, and security are some of the challenges in supply chain industry. So despite the traceability in supply chain, the regulatory compliance cost shows a huge burden for businesses. So it creates additional delay for project approvals. Especially in Australia, this discourages investors from maximizing mining industry investment potentials. Now I will explain what is blockchain technology and why it is secure. Blockchain technology, the concept was originally described in 1991 by a group of scientists to timestamp digital documents. However, it was first implemented by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 to create digital cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency and blockchain is the technology that supports it, and they are interconnected concepts. Blockchain essentially distributed decentralized database that shared across network. The heart of the blockchain is moving from centralized trust to distributed trust or universal trust. Let's talk about why blockchain is secure. All nodes in blockchain network are contributing to verify and validate transaction. We call this as mining. Blockchain allows anybody in the network to see every other person's record in real time. So it provides the transparency. These blocks are chained together, and this makes the data immutable or immutably linked together, as you can see. Once data or a block has been added to a blockchain, it can never be changed again. So it is a secure tamper-proof database or tamper-proof ledger. If a malicious user wants to hack one block, he has to change the entire chain. Once the data is entered to a blockchain as a block, it is timestamped and digitally signed as a proof of integrity. A timestamp is proof that contents of block existed before a specific point in time. So the information in blocks cannot be backdated. Literally, it would be extremely difficult to change it. When a transaction is added to a blockchain, let's say a property price, or let's say a patient healthcare records, the blockchain will be updated across all nodes within seconds. Blocks are immutably linked together. Change in one block could change all the connected blocks to become invalid. So the key features of blockchain are decentralization. It is very transparent, so we can trace who did what and when. It is anonymous. It is immutable. Blocks are immutably linked together. Consensus, it maintains a distributed setting or making rules. This is the beauty of the blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology. If you have no idea about how blockchain works, I have created a 20 minutes video that you could watch. Peer-to-peer networks are essentially solid and secure, and more importantly, they have no central authority. Peers or nodes are computer systems connected to each other via internet. So each peer keeps the same copy of the entire blockchain ledger to limit the single point of failure. So transaction updates and validations are reflected in all copies simultaneously within a few seconds. The beauty of the blockchain is that peers can make transactions to each other directly without intermediary trusted third parties. Now I will explain you some of the research what I contributed in the blockchain space. Study 1. When we adapt blockchain technology to IoT or Internet of Things, the problem is blockchain cannot handle enormous amount of data from transaction which are coming from hundreds of thousands of sensors. However, adding a new block to a blockchain requires more delay than expected, especially blockchain-based IoT ecosystem. To examine this, we developed a new comprehensive model to estimate the computation time needed to generate a new block. We consider all the layers to adapt fast, real-time machine-to-machine communication. We estimated time component of each and every step in each layer and develop a model to estimate it. Our study identifies potential time-consuming steps in adding a new block to blockchain. Further, we observe the impact by varying data packet size, blockchain type, encryption algorithm used. Our results demonstrate that the type of blockchain framework and data encryption algorithms could affect the block generation time. We observe Hyperledger Fabric outperforms Ethereum, Litecoin, Dogecoin in terms of block generation time in IoT networks. We observe that the blockchain framework does not play a significant role in block generation time for smaller data packets. We also observe benefit of using 256-bit ECC encryption algorithm and the fog layer in IoT networks to enhance scalability of block generation process. Our results indicate that the total block generation time varies depending on the selected IoT framework, data encryption algorithm, blockchain type, and the key functions of the other layers. Next, scalability in blockchain. Study number 2, instead of traditional sequential blockchain, in this study, we use IOTA tangle network. So simultaneously, we can add more transactions. We develop an optimization framework to increase the network scalability and also to provide a priority level of essential transaction on IoT network. We develop a best tip selection method and best approval selection method based on the IOTA tangle network to reduce malicious attack, increase network scalability, incorporate priority level for essential transaction based on the IoT application, and incorporate cumulative importance of new transaction based on the requested time. The proposed model is suitable for fast, real-time machine-to-machine communication. Study number 3, sharding is considered to be most promising solution to overcome and to improve the scalability limitation of blockchain networks. Although the scalability improves due to the sharding nature, it increases the influence of the malicious attacks on blockchain networks. As now, we have a less nodes to verify a new transaction. So we have to take the balanced approach based on our requirements. Generally, nodes are distributed among shards randomly. As a consequence, malicious node can be clustered into a single shard, making the entire network fail. To avoid this, we develop a comprehensive trust model, enhancing the trust core of nodes to minimize adversary influences of malicious attacks in sharding-based blockchain network. And distributing nodes with the same aggregated trustworthiness scores, we can say as a fair node distribution among shards, could be achieved to reduce the malicious impact into single shard. An uncorrupted shard probability is shown to be higher in rapid chain sharding protocol. The probabilities of clustering corrupted nodes into the single shard could be estimated, and the existing of such corrupted shards into entire network could be identified using proposed model. Therefore, the proposed model could be adapted to improve the security of sharding-based blockchain networks in the future. Study number 4, the available sharding-based blockchain networks utilize weak assumption that all processors or devices have similar computation capabilities. To address this limitation, we introduced the new concept of allocating mining device based on their computation power in sharding-based blockchain system for IoT. Each processor within a committee is uniformly rewarded, and the rational processor might decide to take a free ride. In other words, get paid without engaging in any committee work. Our results demonstrate that total computation cost of the entire system increases when the computing cost for verifying signatures and number of shards increases. The total number of mined processors for each shard decreases with the high number of less powerful processors. So the total reward of the entire network is distributed among a few shards. We demonstrate that our new method of allocating mining devices based on their computation power provides fair rewarding distribution. Now I will discuss about the blockchain trilemma. So this is the study number 5. Blockchain trilemma, decentralization, scalability, and security. It is a well-known fact that we can make only 2 out of these 3 at any given time. We call this as a blockchain trilemma. So based on the concept, we can pick which blockchain type suits our organization. For an example, Ethereum and Bitcoin blockchain focuses mainly on decentralization and security, and Hyperledger Fabric and Ripple focus on scalability and security. Similarly, IOTA Tangle Network focuses on decentralization and scalability. We propose a probability distribution model to analyze all these properties of scalability trilemma. This model considers both transaction processing and failure probabilities. We use classical Chebyshev bound and hypergeometric probability distribution model for this analysis. We analyze transaction processing and failure probabilities of sharding-based blockchain networks based on number of nodes in a shard, number of shards in entire network, and shard resiliency, as well as the network resiliency. We validate proposed model with different sharding-based protocols, group in class A, OmniLedger, Elastico, Harmony, Silica, and class B, Rapid Chain. So depending on the application or the priority, we can select the optimal option we should use for our application. Security. Study number 6. One of the biggest challenges in the existing blockchain technologies is unnecessary wastage of the resources, such as electricity, due to the network traffic and inefficient reward mechanism during the blockchain mining process. For example, Bitcoin blockchain framework. To overcome this problem, we developed a lightweight blockchain framework to reduce the cost of computationally intensive mining process and the network traffic while fairly rewarding concurrent miners. We compare our algorithm with existing algorithms and found same algorithm complexity in the Bitcoin and the Ethereum blockchain. We determined break-even point to compensate for the cost for the mining process and the network traffic. And consequently, we enable the possibility of compensation for successful blockchain miner who fail to be granted a reward. This motivates miners to verify and validate new transaction before a new transaction is added to the blockchain. Study number 7. In cryptography, certification or certificate authority is an element, or let's say an organization that assign digital certificates. There are some existing weaknesses in public key infrastructure system especially for IoT networks. For example, device's secret key are installed on the device itself instead of real owners. So manufacturers may expose to these secret keys. In addition, these private keys of a single root CA can be stolen by an adversary. Just imagine your router at your home. Do you think it is safe? No. We adopt a permission blockchain framework to enable IoT device access control, mainly to protect cyber infrastructure of the IoT networks. We consider all the internet infrastructure, cloud, fog, web servers, application servers, routers, switches, gateways, remote sensors, controllers, actuators, radio transceivers, the storage system, including computing grade and data grade. We derive a latency model using communication latency, digest computation latency, message authentication code, computation latency, latency for device access query via security access administrator, and latency for authorization, device access, latency for adding transaction to blockchain. We consider all the possible options, and we develop a comprehensive latency model to estimate accurate time to access a target object using blockchain security. Our results indicate that existing model underestimate a latency by 75%. This model is practical to observe the scalability performance of a network to detect malicious traffic by observing time. Study number 8. We develop a probabilistic model to analyze malicious attacker success probabilities on blockchain based on 8 different types of cyber attacks. So these are the attacks. We utilize proposed model to analyze the impact of network vulnerability factor based on all 8 attacks. We analyze attacker success probability based on the blockchain resiliency, or let's say fault tolerance, provided by the consensus algorithm, network size, network vulnerability factor of cyber attacks, and location where the attacks are unsafe in blockchain network. Malicious attack on sender node, transmission communication links, control site, server databases, receive end, and also, for example, actuators, edge devices, smart contracts, all the possible options we considered. This is the last section of my talk, traceability in smart contract. Study number 9. So we develop a decentralized music file sharing platform where music file owners can upload music files and the music file requesters can download music files. We develop a smart contract on public permissionless blockchain to protect music industry from consequences of illegal downloading of copyright protected music files. Further, we implement a penalty scheme to avoid malicious and illegal music file resources to be added to the blockchain community network. Our model analyzes the cost incurred in music file uploading and downloading transaction based on the uploading, downloading cost, transaction fee, and the networking cost. This approach is ideal for addressing the problem of illegal distribution of copyright protected music files without consent of owners, which has a negative consequences in the music industry at this moment. Study number 10, adaptive blockchain for supply chain traceability. So COVID-19 vaccine supply chain. So now thousands of fake vaccines are manufacturing and distribute among the supply chain confidentially. The vaccine supply chain becomes more difficult as the results of lack of robust tracking mechanism. We developed a hyperledger fabric-based vaccine tracking system to resist fake and counterfeit vaccine. We developed 4 separate smart contracts for our traceability system. We are currently finalizing this paper. This is the last study, adapting blockchain for supply chain traceability. This is for the profit optimization in agri-food industry. When blockchain technology is implemented, how do the supply chain participants split the cost for the blockchain technology adoption, and also how it affects their profitability? We identify agri-food supply chain members under 2 categories: supplier, manufacturer, third-party logistics service provider, and retailer as internal players, and the regulatory compliance or government, and the end user or customer as external players. We develop best pricing strategies for agri-food supply chain members. We prove the cost can be clearly reduced by using blockchain traceability adoption. This is a work in progress paper. So there are a few of my scientific articles related to blockchain technology. We have few other articles which are under review process and work in progress. If you are interested in reading these papers, please send me a message via LinkedIn. I will send you the PDF files. This is the final remarks of my talk. I reuse my first slide. I explain how to leverage blockchain technology to shape the future of Sri Lanka using 3 questions: why, what, and how. I explain what are the current challenges we are facing, and then what is blockchain. And essentially, I explain how we can use blockchain technology for security, trust, transparency, and traceability using some of my research work. I'm not a blockchain expert, still I'm learning many things in this space. I like this picture as it clearly describes me. Thank you all. Any question?
Thank you, madam. It is more conceptual, mathematics, science, and new way of thinking. So complex things come into a systematic way of presentation. So again, once again, on behalf of our 43rd Brigade Engineering Forum, as well as Economic Forum, we would like to say big thank you for your great presentation and time. So we will take our Q&A session after the presentation of Dr. Sandu also. So we will move into the next presentation. Presenter, Dr. Sandu Abeywickrama, a software engineer and a solution architect, solving real-world business problems using mathematics, data, and software technologies. He has been engaged with designing and developing large-scale cloud-based software solutions since 2010. He has specialized in photonics and optoelectronics engineering, computer science, cloud computing, cybersecurity, big data architectures, and business consultancy. In 2016, he was awarded his PhD in engineering from the University of Melbourne, Australia, for his research contributions toward sustainable and reliable infrastructure for the next generation internet. He is currently the CTO of Atisfy, an award-winning data-driven marketing technology company that specializes in influencer marketing, which is headquarters in Singapore. He is also affiliated with the Chartered Institute of Management Accounting, UK, the Institute of Engineers, Sri Lanka, and the Australian Computer Society. Sandu is passionately engaged in facilitating the use of cutting-edge technologies to deliver new to the world online experience towards betterment of humanity. Dr. Sandu, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Parakrama, for the lovely introduction. And I would like to also thank the 43rd Brigade for organizing this session, and also Honorable Patali Champika Ranawaka for inviting me to give my thoughts on how we can leverage the blockchain technology for the Sri Lankan context. So let me start my talk by taking quite a philosophical aspect to the topic. Now that Dr. Malka explained the technical and the theoretical aspect of the blockchain and the mathematical foundation behind it, let me take a step back and take a philosophical look and see how we can now maybe be smart about making some business and economical decisions to leverage this global movement, and how we can take advantage of this big blockchain movement happening in the world. So if we look at some of the technologies that changed the world, let me quickly take you all through the history. And maybe 500 years ago, 1400s, the innovation of the printing press completely, in my opinion, changed the world as we know it, the life on earth. Before the printing press, the knowledge had to be was only available for a select group of individuals. Either the books were handwritten, so if you wanted to take a copy, you had to write it by hand. So there's a very little number of copies available. Printing press, boom, changed that forever. It made it very economical to make a lot of copies and distribute knowledge. So in turn, completely closed the knowledge gap that existed in the world. And then fast forward 300 maybe years to 1800s, where we see the invention of electricity and the engine. Before this, the knowledge was there, but to do this big infrastructure, it required huge amounts of manpower. How did the leaders those days accumulate this manpower? Slavery was an option, and all the other bad behavior, we could say, was eradicated by the invention of the engine, where we could use machinery to produce the labor that we required. Then fast forward to our favorite era, the 1900s. We all know the big invention that changed the world is the internet. What did it fill as a gap? It filled the distance gap. Now we are living proof of that. So today in 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, we are getting together from all across the world, getting to a Zoom meeting and having an intellectual conversation from the comfort of our own homes. And this is quite an amazing how the distance gap has been fully vanished. So fast forward to today. Now today in the 2000s, what do you think is the big technology that is changing the world? Yes, Dr. Malka completely explained this at the core. It is the blockchain. And I might ask you, what is the gap we are trying to fill here? Because that is where the business value lies. The gap we are trying to close here is the trust gap. So the thing about big technologies is it's easy in hindsight when you see now it's easy to see, oh, the internet, that is exactly what it did. But if I ask you in 1972, the same question, what do you think the internet will solve? This was the picture, a snapshot of the internet in 1972. It was just barely a couple of universities running a couple of networks, and these networks were barely able to transport a couple of bytes across it. And so if I asked you the question in 1972, would you have been able to predict how the internet is going to change the world in the next 30 years? Possibly not. And many people, don't worry, you are not alone. 99% of the people could not. And the 1% that did are the Jeff Bezos, are the Elon Musks, are the Bill Gates of the modern society. So this brings me to one of my favorite quotes by best-selling author Robin Sharma. The real trick in life is to turn hindsight into foresight that reveals insight. What does it mean? So it's easy in hindsight to see what these things did, but it's the real trick is to get that insight and extrapolate it to the future and realize how it's going to change the next 10 years, the next 20 years, and how we can leverage on this change and how we can be smart about riding the wave of change. So let's talk about the trust gap. So we speak about the blockchain solving the trust gap, which sounds interesting, but what is it? The trust gap in simple sense is the gap between my expectation versus my experience. What do I mean? Let me give you an example that we can all relate to. Imagine you want to buy something online. What would you do? First of all, you have to find a marketplace. Example, Amazon. Another example, there's a couple of other options there. Now you would pick the most trustworthy platform to you. And in the platform, now you would go and see, say, a range of products. There's one particular product that you really like. Now you see, now you are making the decision whether I buy it or not. Now, if I buy it, I pay my hard-earned money out upfront, expecting to receive this good within a couple of days. Now, my expectation is to get this product exactly a particular way that I want to receive it, maybe on this particular date. But in reality, my experience could be the product might be a bit different from what I expected. And the date of receiving it might be a bit different than I expected. So the gap between my expectation and the experience is the trust gap. Now, the trust is such a core internal part about the human society from the from the early days, from the Stone Age, the caveman days, trust had to be there for us to interact with each other. So you would agree if I say that you would not do business with an individual or an organization that you do not trust. Now, the same way, there is ways to manufacture trust. So as humans, we have evolved and learned how to manufacture trust, and we have created systems in place so that this trust is easily manufacturable, so we can easily transact with each other. And with this, we are now transacting over $100 trillion a year within the 7 billion humans. So if we take the same example, now, if you go to Amazon to buy the product, first of all, you had to trust Amazon. So the current systems imposes an asymmetric trust relationship. So the Amazon worked as a hierarchy and the infrastructure where other sellers can come. And Amazon will give us data related insights to see how trustworthy these sellers are. Maybe it is ratings from the previous buyers. Maybe it is the ratings by Amazon with a logo saying verified seller. Maybe it is some other marketing authority creating marketing campaign that is launched by that brand. However, even though these hierarchies of trust exist, these systems are still have problems. Socially destructive business practices. Amazon itself is facing antitrust cases nowadays recently. And there can be corrupt actors. Amazon can be super unbiased, but there can be a corrupt seller that comes in and makes a problem in the ecosystem. Poor security practices. As Professor like Dr. Malka explained, cybersecurity is a huge challenge. So, and last but not least, there's control points that risk coercion by politically and economically powerful actors. Imagine a political or economical change that will come in and changes the ecosystem. So in some sense, the economic, the political structure, trust structure, the government is even a bigger hierarchy than the Amazon or the company itself. So ultimately, there is a problem that lies if we trust 100% one of these hierarchies, there is a chance that the top of the hierarchy can initiate a change that will make our previous assumptions false and would make us bear the cost. So how can the blockchain bridge this trust gap? Imagine the same example. The marketplace earlier decided to say this is the bestseller, highly rated, verified, 99.99% of successful reviews. Now they change something, and then all of a sudden now it's a different seller. So you feel mistrusted, or your trust has been broken. Now, if that data was publicly available, then the company cannot make these changes. You yourself will be able to see this data. And if this data is immutable, this data can't be tampered with, then you would see this change cannot happen without seeing it coming. So this is the power the blockchain gives, that making the trust a decentralized entity. So now I think we got a philosophical view as how the blockchain will change the game of business and also the how life on earth would trust each other. And trust is one of those things that more you have, it's better. So if you have one option which will give you more trust and the trust gap is smaller, and another option with a larger trust gap, humans as smart animals are naturally going to gravitate towards the least trust gap option. So as long as there is an option available in the marketplace, the same way you picked Amazon, the biggest company, so the biggest authority, so you are thinking this company cannot go down. The last thing that can happen is the biggest company fall. That's why you decided to go with the biggest marketplace versus maybe another smaller e-commerce platform that was competing with these giants. Now, so now that we have a philosophical view, let's see about how some of the applications of the blockchain technology and how we can utilize them, and also think about the Sri Lankan context. So the most popular application of the blockchain is decentralized finance. This, I think we are all now aware, this has been the hot topic for the last 10 years, Bitcoin being the best performing asset class compared to real estate and commodities and any other asset class available. So Bitcoin or this DeFi pretty much is creating a globalized payment solution that now we do not anymore need a third party to trust to make a payment from one user of the internet to another user of the internet. And just by trusting the network, the decentralized network, and pretty much all the functions of finance will be or, not, or already is replaced by the blockchain in this context. However, this is a global context. So let's now focus maybe some of the applications that a government can implement to take benefit of this technology for a particular country. So here are some of the use cases that are widely studied for as applications for governments. The best and the main is the identity management, where we'll speak about identity management in detail later, but what it means is currently we have government organizations that are issuing identity documents, maybe a birth certificate, an NIC, a national identity card, maybe a passport, maybe a marriage certificate. All these identity systems are currently hosted in centralized databases. So the same way the people can write information easily into a centralized database, they can also tamper with the data, making it not true and accurate, making it fraud, making it open for fraudulent behavior, and inviting bad actors to come in and tamper with the data. And let's revisit identity management later in the talk, but let's just quickly browse through some of the other applications. Internet of Things and smart energy grid. So most of these applications, Dr. Malka also mentioned. Supply chain systems, a very interesting use case. Imagine you go into the supermarket and also take the vaccine example that Dr. Malka mentioned. You are thinking you are getting the authentic vaccine, but now there's a label on it that says this company has certified this is the authentic vaccine. Now you have to trust that company, a bigger hierarchy that to trust that this vaccine is true. In fact, if the data was already in a distributed ledger, you could have checked it yourself and tracked back the immutable data all the way to the manufacturing and also maybe the sourcing of the main parts to put together to maybe create the vaccine or any product like that. Then cybersecurity, academic records, voting, highly controversial topic where a lot of governments have been accused for rigged voting systems, and property, land ownership. Even I think in Sri Lanka, this is a very common place of fraud and malicious activity. So all these places could use the help of a well-designed blockchain solution that will completely take away the problem of having third parties coming and having to certifying and verifying, trying to minimize the trust gap between two parties, two transacting parties. So I wanted to briefly explore, as a solution architect, I took the liberty to think about how we can actually implement such a system in Sri Lanka. And I created a draft solution for Sri Lanka, how we can implement an identity solution and how also we can use it to completely make our current system of identity management much better and more true and transparent and accountable, and pretty much eradicate the chances of fraud happening. So the trick is to introduce a unitary avatar. Think of it as an account. You have, when you are born, you are given an account. That account, currently you have all these identification documents. Conceptually, from birth to death, it's a sequence of certificates that will legally make your life, document your life. And this is done for all the citizens. And this is how the Department of Statistics is keeping track of the human, all the citizens of the country. Now, currently, all these are stored in separate centralized databases, and they don't talk to each other unless there is a lawsuit or something. There can be fraud happening in one department, and the rest of it will not match anymore, and it could get spun up as a lawsuit, which gets dragged for 50 years, wasting a lot of money and energy. And maybe by the time all this is fixed and the database gets re-synced, maybe the person has already died. So we can fix all this by creating a unitary avatar. The concept is to create one account which, in fact, you can use to access all this information. So with all this data, instead of being in centralized separate databases, they will all be in one blockchain. And this blockchain will control what the user will have the power to control what is shown and how to manage his or her own identity. So let me show a draft architecture I've put together how this could work. So imagine we run a blockchain, and more nodes we run, every node will have a copy of the entire blockchain, and we can now keep run a node in every department of the government organizations. For example, all the universities can be running one node each, and Department of Education, Department of Examination, Department of Registration of Persons. So pretty much all the current authorities that provide identification related services. Now, there's blockchain, and then there will be some more nodes that are mainly focusing on the authentication and certificate providing and certificate verification services. So I'll explain how this all comes together. Now think about a baby that is born on January 1st, 2021. Now, when the baby is born, so the hospital already is a part, will be responsible for creating the first avatar, so the first account, and then that record can be created. Maybe that record will only have the basic information, the mother's avatar account, and then height, weight of the baby, maybe the gender, basic information, not even the name will be there, but immediately that record will be created. And once the record is created, the network will take that record and go through the consensus mechanism. And if the record is validated, it will be added to the block. And after that moment, that block can never be changed. Now, then the baby will grow a bit, maybe in about a week or two, the parents will come up with a name and go to the registration of persons and make a birth certificate for the baby. Now, at that point, all that other information from the Department of Registration of Persons will also be added to the blockchain, where it will update the same account and with new records, okay, the name added, new information added, and we can add. And also, mind you, that always, every time these things are getting updated, you can also add a timestamp and who's updating it, and all the metadata around this as well. Now, then after some time, the baby will go to school, and the school system, the schools can also be running a node, and they will be adding their exam results to these nodes, and then followed by the university. And then imagine now this university student comes out of the University of Moratuwa and is looking for a job now, and he goes to an interview. In the current practice, in the interview, we ask for the certificate. Maybe if you don't trust the certificate, we would maybe have to verify it with the university. Maybe we have to get a verification party to certify this certificate, just to establish that trust, that to see if with this, what this student is saying is true. But with a centralized system like this, we can completely avoid having to do all these third-party certifications, and we can get the user who has his or her private key to authenticate themselves and generate a certificate with only the information they want the employer to see. Maybe the employer doesn't want to know like the baby's born weight, or maybe even the birthday. The employer just wants to know the education certificates and maybe the name and the personal identification information and the academic records, pretty much. So the user can pretty much make those things available and create a certificate, an identity document that is specifically for this use case, and give it to the employer. And the employer will be able to verify that this certificate is valid by another node running in the blockchain. Now this system, now if the certificate is valid, now immediately the trust has been established, because everybody, like the employer and everybody knows now, in if the data in the blockchain says it cannot be changed, right? And if one node cannot be tampered with. So the way the blockchain works. So, and then of course, when the person dies, the death certificate will kind of close that account, and then it will be archived. And now this system, if you think about it, it's not a complicated system to put together. But at the same time, maybe there will be a complicated challenge to migrate all the currently siloed information into a chronological order and put it into as a seed blockchain. But here are some advantages I have listed in this system, this kind of a system. So trust is established without a third party, the main requirement, main advantage. And two is it's a globally identification system. The user can use this from anywhere in the world, and anybody can verify this information. And three, data cannot be tampered with by malicious agents. Imagine somebody wants to change their birthday, and they also have access to one node, and they can go into maybe the registration of a person's department and go and change this information. Immediately, the validator nodes will catch that this blockchain has changed, and will remove that and replace it with a true and accurate copy. Four, which another advantage, which I think is the most important, is the ability to do on-chain analysis as a source of truth. Now, statisticians can pretty much, so some information can be made public anonymously. So think about University of Peradeniya, all the undergraduates, you want to analyze their scores, their thing in an anonymous way, and analyze how the university is performing, how the students are performing, and how these people are performing. Maybe they could even find out if the higher education, a person getting more and more higher education, maybe that is a reason for them to live longer, or correlations like that. Maybe we can analyze other aspects as well. Having the ability in a public information out there so that anybody can access it, but at the same time, in a way that it preserves the data privacy for the main user in an anonymous way, it's quite the interesting feature of a blockchain. Yeah, traceability of all changes. So every change, the way the blockchain works, every change has to be, every insertion of data, once it's inserted to the blockchain, it's immutable. You cannot change it. For you to change it, the only way is to pretty much do a reverse, like an undo operation on top of it. But with the timestamp, you can still see, okay, on January 1st, the baby's name was X. On January 2nd, the name was changed from X to Y, or similar. And last but not least, data loss. These days, a hot topic in Sri Lanka is data being lost in the scale of terabytes. So this solution can immediately, completely remove that possibility because there's so many copies running in so many places in a distributed way. There is no way somebody can pretty much use some political power or some economic power to completely wipe out the database. So yes, this solution is just a draft and as an idea. The aim is here to make the participants here and also the forum and the engineers and the economists here to start thinking about such solutions that can be implemented in a context of Sri Lanka, and to take the steps to implement this and to start thinking about how we can leverage the blockchain technology for the localized, to solve local problems. So here are some conclusions. So we know that the blockchain technology shrinks the trust gap that exists in the current commerce. And we also know humans, once the trust gap reduces, we will never go back to a bigger trust gap. So the second point is the governments can now use the blockchain technology to establish accountability and untamperability of data. So as I say it, the government's main role and the responsibility is to create the infrastructure in a way that one bad actor cannot change the whole system. And one of the biggest problem in the current system is exactly that. Now, the third point is we can use the blockchain technology to fix the currently opaque governance structures. And we invite the Sri Lankan government to include these blockchain solutions in the government's investment plan on the science and technology in the years to come. Of course, we invite all the participants here, entrepreneurs and engineers, to start developing blockchain-based solutions to solve all the trust-based business problems. Because currently, this big wave that is taking the world by storm, and going back to our philosophy in the earlier, are you the smart Bill Gates who makes the investment in 1972, understanding what the internet is going to do? Are you that smart engineer today who's going to make use of the blockchain revolution? Are we as Sri Lankans the smart country to adapt blockchain technologies to make the best country for our children? So with that thought, I would like to thank you all for being here. And you can also connect me via LinkedIn, and I would like to collaborate with any of your blockchain related projects.
Dr. Sandu, thank you very much. First part, you take it with the some practical aspect of, and you relate it to the Sri Lankan context where we can operate and we can go forward in the future requirement. To take a nice pictorial view of that, to explain the linking of the person life cycle into blockchain, it's a great thing. So thank you very much, sir, devoting your time and your energy for this particular session. So without wasting much time,
you are welcome.
We will go to the Q&A session. I think in our Q&A session, we have few questions raised to Dr. Malka you as well as Dr. Sandu you. So I think you can view these questions and you can answer then and there. Simultaneously, in chat form, we have few chats there. They're asking few clarifications as well as some requirements in their future reference. If you can go through these questions then and there, then we can go forward. And meantime, if someone would like to raise hand and ask question verbally, then we can give that opportunity also to them to raise their question.
All right, I will take it. One question from Bandara. What would you mainly purpose to protect the national data of Sri Lanka by using blockchain tech? Propose, yeah. So certainly you can use it for, as discussed, for the, this is purely for the data protection, whatever the, let's say in a device or whatever. So you can use the, let's say, maybe private blockchain, or maybe let's say there are many Hyperledger Fabric. You can use Binance, Polkadot. There are very, very new blockchain frameworks. You can use, certainly you can use it for the national data protection. So I have confidence that there are, even in the some industries here already using, and many industry, in fact, they are using for the data protection, and even healthcare industry, people are using for the data protection. So certainly you can use, but you should not use the public blockchain. You need to use the private blockchain, like I said, Hyperledger Fabric, Binance. You can use even the recently Facebook launched blockchain. It's a initially it was named as Libra. Now it's a new name is Diem. So those sort of, there are different private blockchain. We can use it. So then you have the access, you have the control. If it is a public blockchain like Bitcoin blockchain, you have no access. Who is going to access? You cannot control. It's because it's public. See, if you are using private blockchain, so certainly you can use it. So I think it's a good thing if you can try it. Second question from Buanaka. Hyperledger Fabric application to track authenticity of COVID vaccine. Where do the node exist? If there are only a few nodes exist, would it really achieve decentralization? And will it really prove the genuinity, or if it is a private blockchain? Yes, you need to, you should use the private blockchain. So this sort of scenario, you cannot use public blockchain. Public blockchain means anyone in the world, any malicious users can have access, like at the moment in Bitcoin blockchain, right? So you should use the private blockchain for sure. And for the why you are thinking about few nodes, you can have many nodes. Even in a hospital environment, you can think about hundreds. Let's say if this sort of COVID vaccine, it should be a government related. So if it is a government related, or maybe as a private company is doing that, certainly you can have hundreds of nodes. So it is then the decentralization, it's not a problem, right? So however, you have the access, you have the control. Let's say if it's a private company or maybe a government, you have the control who have access. And even you can control, there are different ways and different layers you can provide this access, right? Based on, because you don't want to untrusted people to give the voting, right? Because you need to get the, let's say, whatever the, let's say if you are using Bayesian fault tolerance as a consensus algorithm, you need to have a 33% vote from the people, from the nodes, right? So you have to have a many nodes for sure. And definitely you have to go with the private blockchain, not the public blockchain. Next question. Hope I answer your question. Otherwise, you can switch on your mic and you can ask. Next question from Tarindo. How could we use the blockchain to connect to the other parts of our market to find efficiencies that go beyond our firm to a market level? Yeah, there are different ways you could use. The one option is you can use this, let's say your main blockchain, you can have some let's say off-chain. One option is off-chain, or if you are using the blockchain like a Binance, so you can, and also Polkadot, so you can have some let's say sub-chain, right? Parallel chain. One option is that going to Polkadot, or other thing is that sort of those also private blockchain. And the other thing is the other popular method is a decentralized app. So decentralized applications is a very popular even in Australia and many other countries. So by using decentralized app, what we are doing is external, the stakeholders. So you can give the access. So, but with the, again, it's the username password protected, but you have the control who can have access. So then you give based on that, you provide the access. Either you can using with the, as said before, you can use the either Polkadot or Binance, that sort of blockchain. Those are private blockchain again, and also the decentralized application. That's very popular at this moment.
Excuse me. So Ethereum, Ethereum is a decentralized blockchain, right? So we can use it. We can use it, no? So it's a open source blockchain technology with smart contract functionality. So it is also decentralized. So why we can't use that in our applications then?
So Ethereum is little bit more in the, it's a public, more in public than private. You have a less control. If you use that one, you have a less control. So for the Bitcoin, so for example, Bitcoin, for the, let's say, cryptocurrency, you can use it because you need to have that sort of public blockchain. But if you are using for some whatever the let's say for your business, or let's say even for the vaccine, or let's say even for the government, certainly you have to go with the private blockchain.
Sandu, you got your answer?
Yeah, got it. Yeah. That's
also
another
and other thing is the number of transactions per second is much higher in that sort of blockchain in Polkadot, Binance. There are a few other, there are a bunch of private blockchain at the moment people are using. I know personally, the Australian companies they are using. And so those are the great things of, especially for, because you have the control and number of transactions per second, you can add very fast. And there are many other advantages. And also you can have many, let's say other chain, parallel chain. So that means, let's say you can give external, the external stakeholders, you can give access for that sort of scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Other question from Manodya. I think that question is for, I think Manodya question is for Sandu, for you.
Let me find it. How far, Manoj, how far this described system is feasible? Is that the question?
Yes, I think it's for you. Yeah.
So yes, so what I was proposing is not like it's for y'all to start thinking about how such a system can be used. Right, the feasibility is quite feasible, right? And I don't see as a solution why it would not work. Yes, there will be some challenges in kind of handling all the currently available data into the blockchain, but that is solvable. That is assuming that the current data is true and accurate. And we can kind of get that and start the first chain going, and then kind of start adding data in an immutable fashion.
I think next question is for me from ABCD. Yes. Nice name. Thanks for the very informative session. I appreciate effort. Please find my question. Does the improvement you did for the secure sharding-based models introduce any impact on the performance? Study 3, I cannot quite remember what is the study 3. Give me a second. Yes, trust model. Yeah. Does the improvement of you did for more secure in sharing-based model introduce any impact of the performance? Yes, we look at the performance as well, the scalability as well as the security. Because with the sharding itself, the difference is, you know, that is normal blockchain, we can add one transaction at a time. It's like a train. Do you know the different boxes in a train? So we can add only one at a time. With the sharding itself, simultaneously you can add. So that means the scalability is already improved. And then, however, on the other hand, the problem is, so let's say you have altogether a number of 100 nodes. So if you are using the sharding, that means literally it's a clustering, right? So per cluster, we have less number of nodes. So per cluster, if you have less number of nodes, that means, so there's a security problem because we have less nodes to get the voting, right? Rather than 100 people agree that yes, this is the new transaction is secure, we can trust, yeah, rather than 10 people say yes out of 10, right? So however, the sharding itself, it's for the scalability. So that means performance is high. Number of transactions per second we can add very fast. So that's why, especially in IoT scenarios, the sharding based blockchain is very popular. Next question with study 6. Study 6, what is study 6? Yes. Study 6 proposal, the rewarding policy for fail notes to encourage fail notes, does it introduce extra more fees? More fees? No. So usually I do not understand the question correctly. However, I'm going to explain that one. So what we are doing with that system, in generally, in the mining process, what happens is, let's say we have 100 nodes, 100 users. So all are doing the mining process. They try to find the hash, right? So they're trying to find it. That means they are using their electricity. So they do the mining continuously. They mine. However, let's say we have only 100 users. Out of those 100 users, only one person, only the first person who mined the block or mined the transaction will get the reward. But the other people, they don't get it. But that's not fair, right? So that because of that, we introduce the system to fairly distribute that whatever the reward amongst not only because sometimes maybe 3 people mine that block, right? However, the first person who comes to the, let's say, okay, I mine the block, so that person get the reward, although other maybe 2 they did the job, right? So that's not fair because they use their computation power, they use their electricity. So, and at the end it says they get nothing. So to avoid that sort of scenario, we introduce that method. Question number 3, music file related research. Is there any limit for file size? Yes, it is. There are always any blockchain. So let's say the blockchain size, we call as a blockchain, not blockchain size, the transaction size or block size is around 2 megabyte. Usually what we do is, let's say if the data size is bigger, we usually do not save entire data in the blockchain. We save, what we do is, let's say original data. If you go to my video, you can understand that one. So if you, let's say your original data is maybe 6 gigabyte or whatever, it doesn't matter. What we do is we hash it, right? We hash it and save this hash in the blockchain, right? So maybe we save if it is a big data, we save the data in off-chain, not in on-chain. Because on-chain we can have, in one block, we can have roughly some blockchain type, let's say Bitcoin, 2 megabyte, and there are some other blockchain is 1 megabyte. That's a small size. Within that, it's like just imagine like a box. Within a box, you can, let's say this is the size of the box, right? This is the block. We can have maximum based on the size of the transaction. We can have maybe this block, we can save 50 transactions. Maybe another block, maybe not 50, maybe 45, because some may be a little bit different, right? So usually we do not save a big size. What we do is we hash, whatever the data we hash it, we save that hash in blockchain, on chain, right? And we can save the rest in off chain in a different arrangement based on your requirement and based on how you want to do that. Hope I answer your question. Next question, with the trust lies responsibility. In distributed trust, it is possible to have any responsible authority if something goes south. I don't think I understand the question. You can switch on your mic and ask that question. It's not clear. I will go to next question. If I'm a mining node, can I read the data in the blocks I receive? If there's a private key for each multiple data units where it is maintained, you cannot read data. You cannot do anything. What you can do is just, because what they do is they give the very complex number, right? What you're doing is literally what you're doing is a brute force algorithm, right? You try all the options. Let's say It's a 10 digits number. You try, so what, let's say you have a 10 position, so you can use many options, right? So what you do is you try to mine it, yeah? So that means you do not have access to this data. So just to, what you do is, because you do not have a data, so what you do is, whatever the transaction, we don't know here, we don't know what's inside. What we are asking is, okay, for this option, you give different number. So you need to mine that number. So you don't have, so surely you do not have access to this data. You don't know what it is. It's just a transaction. Once you do that, that transaction is put it in that, add into the block. In a blockchain. So once you have many transactions, we add as a block into the blockchain. Although we said, okay, the transaction is there, usually we say that, okay, we add the transaction to the block. That's not the exactly, if you go deeper inside, so there are many transactions, we can put it in the one block, and that block is completed, add to the chain. This is how it works. But no one will have access to the data. It doesn't matter, you are just miner. You just miner, just number, that's it. If I answer, I think the example were very useful, insightful, thanks again. I think next question, it's for Sandu, for you.
Which question is it? It's hard for me to
so what is the best startup idea to incorporate blockchain?
That's $1 million question there. Okay. So what is the best startup idea? I would suggest that you look for where the biggest trust gap is, right? So right now, think about the trust gap, how it works. Think about the bigger the value of the transaction, the bigger the trust gap. If you are buying a house, you would expect to have more trust versus buying a car, versus buying a pen. So I think about it in that sense, and it's hard for me to give a specific answer to this. But there's so many protocols and concepts being published these days. Now, there are games that are now being CryptoCrities is an example where the players are getting the in-game reward as an actual cryptocurrency, and there are use cases where this intellectual property is now as an NFT. You can claim ownership to an image. So there's so many use cases, and what the next best startup idea is quite hard. And also for Sri Lankan context, you have to look for the biggest trust gap. That is, I think, the best place to look for when you are looking for a startup idea.
I think next one also for you, Sandu. From Sachinta Pereira.
Is there a huge financial barrier for the government of Sri Lanka?
Financial barrier for government of Sri Lanka to implement the blockchain technology as of now? So I think it's not a financial barrier. It is, I think, a conceptual, ideological barrier. First, when we discuss these topics, still sometimes the feedback I get is this another Ponzi scheme? Is this another thing? So I think the solution that is here to fix the trust problem has not been trusted yet in Sri Lanka yet. So I think this concept should first change, and this also means that the authorities have to let go of the power and give the power back to the people. And I think it's quite an ideological challenge that the Sri Lanka is facing now, not necessarily financial, in my opinion. But a great question, Sachin.
I think,
Right.
doctors, there are 17 odd questions still pending. I think we can go because this time is now passing close to 2 hours now. close to 2 hours. Therefore, I think it's from your end also, you have engaged more than 1.5 hours. So we will go in quick basis as some questions there with some debatable things also there. So therefore, we will pick the most relevant and go few questions. I think participants, please don't misunderstand that we are not in a position to answer all the questions with time limitations. Of course, I think that based on knowledge we can answer, but with time limits, please go through a quick answer session for the rest of the questions as you prefer, doctors. Over to you, madam.
Yeah. Yeah, I think next question is from Atula. Private chain can be few nodes for mining. How do you really protect the integrity and accuracy of the data? Because malicious actor could create wrong chains due to a few nodes in mining. Why you are using few nodes? You can have many nodes, even for the private blockchain. And other thing is, how do you really protect the integrity of and accuracy of data? So whatever the data, so let's say you get the data set, you don't know about the accuracy of those data. Whatever you get the data, you need to, the assumption, first assumption you need to get the data you were given is accurate. Yeah. But what happened is you hash the data. Right? It's like a fingerprint, right? You hash the data, hash of the data, you save it in a blockchain. So no one, I explain how blockchain works. So no one can, let's say, touch that blockchain, because that it triggers, because every block, so it's a connected. The hash of the previous block is connected to the next block. So therefore, because of that, no one can change the data for sure. But originally what the data what you were given to put it save in the blockchain, we have to assume that this data is the accurate. However, I think you have the misconception that if it is a private blockchain, you have a less number of nodes. Why it is less? So you have many, let's say, many computers, right? So we all are using computers. It can be your node, not necessarily, but you need to have a trustable. So let's say if it is a government, then let's say they have some, let's say, computer labs, those are secured. So whatever the things is, whatever your agreement, let's say it's a private blockchain and it could be a company, but you can have many nodes, not necessarily you to have 2-3 nodes. So that's not true. All right. So next question. Recently we have lost.
Doctor, this
yes.
from question from Mahesh D. Silva. So he's asking that recently we have lost some public data, and the question is how we can recover it.
I don't know. Because if it was saved in the blockchain, so that problem is not there, right? Because you know that the traceability is there. Once we save the data with the timestamp, right? With the hash, it's secured and the timestamp is there. So no one can change it. If someone tries to change it, entire system that triggers to entire system, then entire system knows that something happened to the blockchain and someone tries to change it. But if it were not in the blockchain, if we're in the blockchain, the scenario is not there. But I don't know about this scenario because I have less knowledge about what's happening around the world. But I don't know.
I think that question
one,
again is in the debatable and in the litigation also in the country. Therefore, we'll go to the next question, right?
We can only say that there are some people trying to keep the data lost, right? Which is so. That's the only thing we can see here. And the next question, is it for me?
From Pavani Vasana.
Yeah. Currently, I'm conducting research on evaluating adaptability of blockchain technology in the Sri Lankan pharmaceutical sector. I'm having a problem with that, as most of the pharmaceutical products are imported to our country. If we implement a system in our country, will it make sense, as most of medical products are imported into our country. Yes, it is. It is. But for the initial implementation, it is not straightforward. It takes time for the implementation. But once the implementation is done, so as you can see it from my my recent research, so certainly you can do that. But again, it should be let's see if the government is doing that, then it's different. There may be some, let's say, private companies, they can do that in the supply chain. So because then they know the suppliers, who are the suppliers and who are the other middlemen, and they can trace it. But certainly it's secured. Then no fake product, and so those are secure, and also the traceability is there. Then they can see, okay, at this product, because all the products are saved in all the information is saved in blockchain. So no one can change it. So it's very, very secure. Certainly you can do that.
Next.
Did
Denia.
What if several nodes are simultaneously attacked in planned manner? Say a new form of virus. Several nodes are simultaneously attacked in a planned manner. So it doesn't matter. So either one node or several nodes. So one node, it doesn't matter, because it's like a boxes in a train. Yeah. So it's all connected. All the blocks are connected. So if someone want to try to hack one, that triggers entire block. Yeah. So entire blockchain knows something happened in somewhere. So then what you have to do is you need to again recalculate the hash as well. So it's not literally, it is not possible. You are talking about simultaneously many nodes, not simultaneously many nodes, even a single node. You cannot do that. It's very, very secure. Ruchira, may I know how we can get the blockchain, and also assume that we use the blockchain? How long do you think will take Sri Lanka to come standard that accept a blockchain technology as a norm? I don't know. So what you can do is you can do kind of, let's say, maybe like a research project you can start. So you need a few programmers, and what you can do is you can just try with a small data set and see how it goes. Yeah, but about Sri Lanka to come standard, I don't know those things. All right. What determines the predictability of blockchain? I think it's for both of us.
You want to take it?
I think you can take it.
Okay, so the credibility. So credibility, I'm assuming Ruchira is asking like what makes it the true source of the truest source of the database, one source of truth. Is that what you're referring to, Ruchira? Are you here in the forum?
I think next question is also for you, I think, Sandu.
Okay. How valid is the statement for Sri Lanka that the action would propose to weed out the corrupt actors? No technology by itself can stop corruption, as those who are corrupt tend to keep control over the technologies. Okay, so this is a decentralized thing, right? So Bitcoin is never started from the top. Decentralized solutions are never started from the top. They all come from bottom up. That's why it's more or less a revolution. Now, in 2008, when the financial crisis happened in the USA because of the mortgage-backed securities, it's not the president of the United States that came and said, okay, now let's start blockchain. It was the society and from the grassroots levels that people started using these decentralized assets. So the best example is now the mortgage-backed security crisis. The government of United States decided to come in and bail out the banks. And this immediately gave the signal to the smart individuals who had the previous assumption that the banks will not just dilute all the money, in effect making my savings less valuable. And this immediately gave the environment that was needed for such architectures to rise. Now, I think we are already riding this wave, and it's globally adapted. Now the market cap of these assets have been skyrocketing. Now we are no longer in the era where the movement is being created. Movement is created already. Now it's how we can leverage and fast adapt. El Salvador as a country made Bitcoin the legal tender on like 1 week back. So that means in El Salvador now you can pretty much go and transact, you can pay taxes, you can do your accounting. Every business must accept cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, for all transactions. So the revolution is already happening, and it's a matter of like I said, every technological invention, once it's out there, once the network has sufficient nodes, it cannot be killed. This is the first time that I think there is a machine or an engine that is run, which is not controlled by a human or an organization. This is the first time in the world. So it's already out there. You cannot put it back in. We can all disagree, or like, still it will just run. It will only grow. And no government can stop it, no person can stop it. So it will create the transparency that it is here to create. Yes, I agree with you. Nothing can fully weed out the corrupt actors, but it can give the transparency that is required for people to figure out who the corrupt actors are. That's all it can do.
I think both doctors, now it's, I think time is close to 2 hours from the beginning. So I think there are many questions to answer. I say it's a very good startup, because we understand that the interest of the participants as well as the inclusivity of the subject matter. So hope that we can have a next session sooner to elaborate more. And now I think we can have more participants from our side to elaborate this particular topic. So therefore, today I think it's come to a end of the session. And I would like to thank Honorable Patali Champika Ranawaka, always guiding this kind of things to happen in this country, have a better future for Sri Lanka. And again, I would like to thank Dr. Malka for your time, your energy, and your participation, and your presentation, much knowledgeable thing. And thank you very much, madam. Wish you all the best for your future endeavors, and we hope that you will join in these kind of sessions in future also. Again, Dr. Sandu, thank you very much for your time, energy, as well as your so much of pre-discussions as well, to make this event a success. And wish you all the best, and hope to see you again for a similar session in future. And on behalf of our 43rd Brigade Engineers Forum as well as the Economic Forum, so we would like to thank all the participants here for your time, as well as your inclusivity on subject matter, as well as those who have raised questions with regard to this particular subject. So this is the end of the session. Wish you all the best, and hope to see you with the similar knowledge or unlearn and learn session in future on behalf of our 43rd Brigade. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.